Hello, everyone. My name is Kenton Kavestu. I'm an ex-Googler, an ex-BCG consultant, and the founder of Rocketblocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. In today's Rocketblocks mini lesson, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to sit down with one of our Rocketblocks experts, Rob Reiling, who's a former engagement manager from McKinsey and currently a general manager at the real estate tech startup Opendoor. And in this conversation, which we're doing over Zoom, given all the current status with coronavirus, we are going to touch on a few different topics over the course of this series. We're going to talk about consulting interviews in general and his advice, his insights from being an interviewer at McKinsey and sitting on the other side of the table, and finally, what it's like to actually be on the job at McKinsey as a consultant and an engagement manager. So let's go ahead and jump in. What do you think the best skill you picked up at McKinsey is?
Uh, I think this is a super boring and stereotypical answer, but I think it's the right one, right? And that is the ability to take a messy and super ambiguous problem, cut it up into chunks, make it digestible, and move it forward, right? And that skill set is broadly applicable, has served me well across my entire career, regardless of what the content area is or who I'm working with.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not the world's best strategist. I'm not the world's best implementation leader, right? I do have really good hair, so that's good. But
That's in the like category.
yeah. Kind of across all of those things, when I've walked into new jobs or new cases, I have never felt daunted by problems, even big problems, because I felt all right, I have a lot of practice at cutting these problems up, and and even if you don't know where to go with them, right, you do know how to structure questions in such a way that smarter people than you can give input, and then you can move the problem forward from there, right? And so that's incredibly helpful. I very rarely feel truly stuck in a problem, right? And I think that is a feeling that I used to have a lot when I was faced with a big thorny mess.
Yeah, I think that's right. I agree with you a lot. I think that it's a boring answer, but the explanation is what's interesting. I think structuring has this magical ability that once you get really good at it, a problem that looks super intimidating, once structured, loses its grit a lot. It just once it's in bite-sized chunks, it's a lot easier to tackle. And I think, like you mentioned, I think one of the interesting aspects of that is once it's in a bite-sized chunk, it's a lot easier to say, okay, there's someone in the world or someone in my network that knows how to solve this bite-sized chunk, even if I don't.
Yep.
And now I just need to find him or her and ask for help.
That's exactly right.
And I do think that, I think it's probably, in my opinion, the biggest reason why ex-consultants are so popular on the job markets, because companies know they often possess a very strong ability to structure problems, and it's not taught it's not taught explicitly the way I think it gets taught in consulting.
Yeah, there are people who are incredible at it, who and I think as an ex-consultant, you recognize that skill really quickly in people, regardless of whether or not they were consultants or not, right? And it feels, it can feel magical to the people on the ground, right? Because they look at this big thorny problem too. Let's take the current madness that we're in, right? Which responding to COVID-19. You look at responding to COVID-19 as an icy individual contributor on the ground, right? And you're like, oh wow, how is my business going to respond to COVID-19? And it's just this glazed look in your eyes, right? Which is all right, I have no idea of what's going to happen, right? Now, if you think about the way that a consultant is going to attack the response to COVID-19, right? It's basically all right, as a company, I'm going to think about this in two phases of time, right? I'm going to think about it in terms of one, the acute phase that is like basically operating now in a shelter-in-place environment.
Yep.
Then I'm going to think about it in the semi-acute phase, which is like when we are able to go back to work, and what that future might look like, right? Because it could be everybody shows up at work at once, or it could be like a trickling in.
Yep.
Now, within that, I'm going to break down the problem into like the various groups are going to be impacted, right? That includes our suppliers, our customers, our internal operations, right? And now all of a sudden, you are, instead of looking at like COVID-19 as like this general disaster, you're like, I'm going to look at the square, which is COVID-19 operations in the context of shelter in place and what that means. And that's a digestible chunk, right? Now I can ask good questions about that chunk. And, you know, again, for the IC who was like just staring at this huge, scary problem like that, that can feel like magic. It really can.
Yeah. Great. I hope you enjoyed that excerpt from my conversation with Rob Reiling. If there are specific questions or topics you'd love to see us discuss with Rocketblock's experts in the future, please leave those in the comments below and we'll consider them for future interviews. So thank you so much for watching. We have a ton of great content coming out on both the consulting and the product management career path in a weekly basis. So if you haven't subscribed yet already, there is a big red button below. Please do so now. And thanks again for watching and have a great day.